Big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. Big up to Lumi. Some good chat on there so far. So I knew Lumi would have a spring in her step today. So yeah, listen, we're gonna talk about it in a bit. Guys, we've got quite a few to get through today. There's some transfer activity that's happened. Obviously breaking last night. Yeah, quite a lot to get into, man. So we're definitely gonna discuss that. But as I said, as always, make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here, and make sure you smash that like button. Guys, let's try and hit a minimum of 20 likes today. But big up yourselves each and every time for coming through. So, to read through some of Lumi's comments. So, yeah, listen, Havertz's injury has led them to go and get Eze, stealing it from under Tottenham's noses. And I think if you're Tottenham, again, if you're a Tottenham fan, let me know. If you're a Tottenham fan, you must be fed up. You think of Gibbs White that you lost out on. Obviously he's had a new contract at Nottingham Forest. And then now the Eze one, stolen from your arch rivals, North London rivals, Arsenal. And the thing is with Tottenham, I believe Tottenham have messed this deal up because I think Tottenham put a bid in of 55 mil plus 5 mil in add-ons, and then you've seen Arsenal come through, 67.5. And I think what Arsenal have probably done, and again, the Havertz injury has obviously pressed their need to go and get Eze now, which again I'm not sure if Eze works out at Arsenal. Obviously former Arsenal youth player as well. But I think Tottenham would have been a better signing for Eze. But you have to think now, Arsenal probably watched what Tottenham have done and just gazumped the price, because for Tottenham to put in a 55 mil plus 5 million add-ons and then Arsenal should just give 67.5, I think Arsenal have done a number on Tottenham, you have to say. Because I thought Tottenham would have had this deal wrapped up, and I think they've taken their time, man, and just messed it up. Yeah, big up Lumi, man. We will definitely go on to the Chelsea one, afterwards. But yeah, big up everyone for coming through as well. Big up to Barbara Joseph. Big up to Broderick as well. Big up to NJ11. First timer in there as well. So yeah, guys, we've got quite a few to go through, as I said. But yeah, the Eze deal. I wanna hear from Tottenham fans. I want you guys to let me know what you think of this deal, because to lose out on, as I said, on Gibbs White and now Eze, yeah, it must be annoying, man, to be honest with you, because I wonder where Tottenham go now. I heard talks about Morgan Rogers. I think Morgan Rogers is going to cost 100 million, and even that, Aston Villa might not even let him go. So yeah, man, it's crazy, but I just don't see. I'm not sure where Eze fits in, because if Eze comes in, for me, if you're going to play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, how Arsenal play, Eze for me has to play in the 10. But it just means, if you're going to play him in the 10, you got your captain Odegaard there, and I think personally it makes the Ethan Nwaneri signing, the new contract, it makes Ethan Nwaneri's new contract look silly, because how is Nwaneri going to figure into this team now? He can't even get game time as it is right now. Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what? I think Eze is a very good player, but I just don't know how he figures in this Arsenal team, because you would have to believe he's going to be playing from the left-hand side, But then you've got 180 Martinelli. You've got Leandro Trossard as well. Madueke, 52 mil. So how is Eze going to figure in? I think Eze is that good of a player. I think he's going to find his way in the team regardless. So I haven't got no worries about him on that front. But I think Arteta now is going to have a tough time to try and balance this squad. Obviously, Havertz being out, Gyökeres, again, is their out-and-out striker. You still got Gabriel Jesus as well. What's going to happen to him? Trossard obviously can play through the middle. But yeah, it's a headache that, a lot of Arsenal fans wouldn't mind, I think. But I think for Arteta, You know, he's gonna have a tough time juggling the squad, man, for sure. But yeah, as I said, man, it's I think Tottenham messed the deal up, and I think Eze, um, you know, I would have loved Eze at Man United, but obviously Man United were never really in for him. And as I said, Tottenham must be kicking themselves, thinking, you know, where do they go from here? Because I think Tottenham still need to go and get a number 10, you know, into their squad. You know, a number 10, someone that can play from the left. Gibbs White and Eze would have been two perfect players for their system. But yeah, they've lost out on both players for different reasons. And yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But yeah, you have to say Arsenal have actually done a good job, man, because I think Arsenal have watched what Tottenham have done. And what makes me laugh as well is that if Havertz didn't get injured, would Arsenal have come in for Eze? You know? And the thing is, I think what Arsenal have done, as I said, I think Arsenal watched what Tottenham were doing, thinking, right, Tottenham have offered that, we're going to offer this. And let's not forget as well, I think QPR have a 20% as well. So that half of that, not half the money, so 20% of the fee is going to go to QPR. So yeah, I think Arsenal have pulled Tottenham's pants down. I think you have to say, you know, and I think he would have been a lot better at Tottenham personally. But again, he's gone to Arsenal, and you have to say Arsenal done a very good job, man. So, but yeah, if you're a Tottenham fan, let me know. So go through some of your chats before we get on to some of the other news. Yeah, Lumi says Chelsea loves shopping at Brighton, Enciso this time. Yeah, we're going to get into that in a minute. So go through some of your chats, as I said. But yeah, the Enciso one is, for me, it's crazy because I was actually thinking about Enciso the other day. I was thinking, what's actually happened to him? You know, number 10 on his back at Brighton, went on loan to Ipswich, was rumoured to be going on loan again. Obviously, is going to go on loan. But who would have thought, yeah, Chelsea. But yeah, we'll get into that. Big up to Terence Tibbs as well. Big up for coming through, Terence. Big up to Epic 08 as well. Gunners fan, big up, bro. Big up to Wayne Griffins each and every time. So, Epic says, oh, I support Liverpool, might be cooked. Listen, man, your window's been very good, man, so I doubt that very much. But I think in terms of Isak, I don't know how that works out personally, you know. Lumi says Eze will be left wing, Gav, and Trossard will be backup striker while Kai is out. You know what the problem is, though, Lumi, yeah? Eze's not a left winger. This is the problem. If you're playing a 4-3-3 and you've got no number 10, then yeah, you can play Eze as like a... He won't be a winger, but he'll be like an inside forward, you know, kind of a bit of a hybrid between a 10 and a winger. But if you're going to play Odegaard as the 10 and play Eze as the winger, Eze's not a winger as such, you know, someone that's going to go down the outside. So I'll be very surprised if Eze has come to Arsenal accepting that he's going to be playing as a winger, because I think part of the negotiations will be, where does he see his future in the team? And it has to be as a 10 for me. Otherwise, I don't believe you're getting the best out of Eze. You know, if you look at Martinelli, Saka, and Madueke, these guys are more suited to playing out wide, you know, because they're more winger type players. But Eze's more of a 10 for me. So, yeah, it's mad. Terence says, Eze gets in easy against those deadbeats. There is no tough decisions. Yeah, listen, Eze based on ability, again, is a starter for me. But football doesn't work like that, unfortunately, because when you've got the captain in Martin Odegaard, you know, who Arteta has to justify to play. You've got Wanyeri, obviously, still a youngster and has signed a new contract. You know, you've got Saka, who's an automatic starter in Arteta's eyes. And then you've got Madueke, who cost 52 million. Martinelli, who's on 180. Trossard, who's going to sign a new contract for more money. How are you gonna fit in all these players? This is the problem, you know. Eze for me starts. If I'm looking at Arsenal's three, and I'm looking at the three behind the striker, for me, I like Wanyeri, but if we're basing it on what Arteta's gonna do, for me, his strongest three behind that would be Saka, Odegaard, and Eze, you know, or Saka, Eze. Trossard, Martinelli. The thing is, it's weird because if I'm looking at definite starters for that Arsenal behind the striker, I'm looking at Eze and Saka, really, but it means if you're going to play Odegaard, Eze's got to play from the left. But that means you're leaving 180 Martinelli on the bench, Then you've got Madueke, 52 million on the bench. So, yeah, it's not easy. But one thing I would agree is Eze has to start. And I think if you're bringing in Eze for that amount of money as well, I don't expect to see him on the bench. But all of a sudden now, it makes the Madueke deal look silly. Because Madueke was going from the bench at Chelsea to now really being on the bench at Arsenal. So it is crazy business, man. But who knows? Tottenham should go for Nkunku. I think Nkunku's going back to Red Bull Leipzig from last I heard. But again, Nkunku's on a lot of money as well. So Nkunku's on a lot of money. So the thing is, he's not an easy deal to do for me. But I do think them getting Nkunku out is going to happen. But as I said, because of the money he's on, how much they're asking for as well. I think if you look at Nkunku, 40 million is probably the limit, I would say. But Chelsea, the way they sell players, probably might be asking for more. Who knows? But I think the limit probably might be 40 million at what they're looking at, and getting his wages off will be key. But the thing is, I do think Nkunku goes, and I think German football is probably best for him for his career because that's where he made his name. Again, Nkunku's someone who's formerly of PSG as well. But yeah, no, he's a good player, but he's fallen off at Chelsea definitely. So I definitely think he'll be on the move. But big up, Lumi. Terence Tibbs says Martinelli can play striker, stating the obvious. Of course, Martinelli is actually a striker, but again, Arteta has turned him into a left winger. But when you're saying Martinelli can play as a striker, you're forgetting that you've got Gyökeres, Gabriel Jesus as well. I think, is he fit now? So it's not as easy to say you're gonna just play him as a striker because you've got other players to fit in. So as I said, man, yeah, he's gonna have a selection headache. Definitely have a selection headache. But he's the manager, and this is what he gets paid for. But all of a sudden, this Madueke deal is looking laughable by the minute because Madueke is not going to start, and especially Eze coming in now. Yeah, he's not starting. The only way Madueke starts is if I believe if Saka needs a rest or gets injured, and then or if it's a Carabao Cup, FA Cup, he gets game time there. But then all of a sudden, what happens to Nwaneri? Is Nwaneri second choice to Odegaard in the 10? Or is that going to be Eze now? I had people telling me about Max Dowman. Max Dowman now, with the Eze signing, is going to be pushed further down. And again, he's only 15, so he's still got time. But how is he going to figure into this lineup when the manager's got definite players that he wants to play in there? Gunners fan says, it may be the fastest deal we've ever done. Took like 3 hours. And again, Gunners fan, I think what Arsenal have done, I think they've watched what Tottenham have done and just gazumped the price, really. I think they were always looking to come in for Eze, regardless of the Havertz injury. I think the Havertz injury is more of a coincidence, but I think they were just looking at seeing what Tottenham were doing and just coming with the bid. And literally that's what they've done. So... But yeah, good signing for Arsenal, but I'm just not sure if it's going to be a good signing for, a good move for Eze, unless he's got the guarantees as to where he's going to play. And if it is on that left-hand side, I'm not too sure, man, if he suits Arsenal in that sense. If it's a 10, which is unlikely, I think he suits it better. Big up to Georgina Riki. Big up for coming through. So Wayne says Man City rejected Spurs bid for Savinho. Yeah, I think Man City are asking for, from what I heard, Man City want as close to probably 60 mil. I think 60 mil I think might get the deal done because I don't particularly think that City really want to sell Savinho, but I think if Savinho's weighing up his options, the amount of game time he's going to get, Oscar Bob is back now, as I said, and he's a top player. Foden's obviously out injured, but he's come through the youth, and obviously Pep does like him. Ryan Cherky, needless to say much more about Ryan Cherky, top player. You got Doku out there, who I don't rate, but offers a different kind of threat. And then obviously Savinho's part of that as well. And you got Marmoush who can play out there and play as a 10. And then obviously they're rumoured to be going for Rodrigo. So yeah, I think Savinho's looking at his game time as being limited, but I think they're still going to want big money for him. And I think it's going to show if Spurs really want Savinho, because I believe Spurs can get Savinho, but it's going to take a bit of money. And I reckon 60, 70 mil might be, a way of getting him out. Because let's not forget as well, Savinho's only 21 years of age. So he's still got a lot of room for development. And for me, I think he's a very good player. So if City are going to want to part ways with Savinho, for me, it's going to take that amount of money, 60, 70 million, And if they get that, that'll be, part of the money that they can use to go and get Rodrigo for me. So, yeah, listen, man, it's going to be interesting for sure. So, Lumi says, we wouldn't block Nwaneri and Dalman's path. There's a plan for everyone here. Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with that, but you have to look at Nwaneri and Dalman. Nwaneri's signed a new contract, and Nwaneri's what? I think he's 18. Dalman's obviously 15. I think Dalman's a bit of a different case because, again, Dalman's only 15. He's still got a lot of room for development. Who knows? He might go on loan, so he's a bit of a different one. But if you're looking at Nwaneri, and you're looking at where Nwaneri plays, as a 10 and can play from the right as well. As I mentioned before, he's got Saka, he's got Madueke now, he's got Odegaard, Eze coming through now. He's got 4 players that are ahead of him in the pecking order for different reasons. So, again, he's 18. If he's not getting regular game time, by the time he knows it, he's going to be like, 20, 21. And if he's still in the same situation, he's gonna be losing a couple of years of development in his career. So that's something he's got to think about. But the only thing that I can think is that the fact that he signed a new contract, he probably would have been told he's going to be getting game time, because otherwise he would have just been better off going off on loan, and not sign that contract yet so he sees what happens. But he must be looking at it, thinking Eze's coming in now, his game time is going to be severely impacted, 100%. No one can tell me otherwise. As I said, do I believe Nwaneri and Dalman are good enough in the future? From what they've shown, 100%. 100% I do believe in it. But them getting regular game time, and you look at Nwaneri and Dalman as two players that are both left-footed, both players that can play in the 10 and play from the right. They're very reminiscent of each other when you think about it. Obviously, Nwaneri is more experienced, but, Nwaneri could be blocking Dalman's path. This is the problem. And then you look at what's blocking their path. How Arteta is going to justify getting those two game time, and again, they're still young, but it's one to watch in the future. That's what I would say, Terence Tibbs says it's only Odegaard versus Eze. Well, I mean, when you're saying it's only Odegaard versus Eze, I don't agree with that, personally, and I'll tell you why I don't agree with that. Because Odegaard's the captain. So if Eze's coming in to play as a number 10, let's say, Odegaard, how long do you think Odegaard's going to stay on the bench for? This is the problem. So Eze, for me, has been brought in because he can play as a 10 and from the left, And as I said, from the left, I don't believe Arsenal get the best out of Eze there. Because in this system, as I said, Eze's not a winger. If you look at how Palace play, Palace play with wing-backs, which means Eze's playing as a 10. Left 10, and then you got Ismail Assar as a right 10, more or less. But Ismail Assar is more of a winger anyway. But if you look at Arsenal, the way they don't play 3 at the back. They play a 4-3-3, or maybe a 4-2-3-1 with Odegaard in the 10. So Odegaard plays in the 10 or plays slightly withdrawn as an 8. The thing is, if Eze's coming in, and let's say Eze starts with Odegaard, Eze's not going to start in the 10 and Odegaard play elsewhere. This is the problem. So if you're going to play Eze elsewhere, if you're going to play Eze with Odegaard, Eze plays on the left, which means he's more of a winger, not as a 10. So this is the thing that people need to understand, you know. The system at Palace, he played as a 10 because you had wing-backs. At Arsenal don't play with wing-backs, which means Eze, if he plays alongside Odegaard, will be playing as a left winger. If he starts ahead of Odegaard, fair enough. But the problem is, how long is Arteta going to keep Odegaard on the bench? And then if you got Odegaard on the bench, what does that mean for Nwaneri? Because you got Madueke, who'll be back up to Saka, you know, and then Nwaneri is not really going to get game time. So these are the things that need to be understood. But big up. So Wayne says, I think Nwaneri needs to go on loan because he will not get a lot of game time. I agree, but it's quite obvious he's not going to go on loan. I think it might be something that might be revisited back in January. But I think as it stands right now, the fact that he signed a new contract and there was no talk about him going on loan, as I said, he's going to have a lot of time on that bench from what I'm seeing, because they've got too many players, Arsenal, now that you would think are ahead of him and have to get game time. As we know, if Saka's fit, he's automatic, which means you've got two positions. And if you're going to say Trossard can play as a 9, Martinelli as well, Gyökeres, Gabriel Jesus might be coming back, the 10 and the left wing, you would think is going to be occupied by both Odegaard and now Eze, which means Nwaneri is going to be doing off the bench. You know what I mean? So, and then you got Madueke still. That will be ahead of him in the pecking order because he costs 52 mil. So, yeah, these are the things, man, that need to be thought about. Big up to Alisac Essentia. Says, hey, can I get a shout out? I'm battling cancer, please. Big up to Alisac, man. Hopefully you get the support and get the treatment that you need. But yeah, big up for coming on, man. You know, it's hard to say, man, when things like this happen. But all I can say to you, man, is keep your head up high, you know, and keep fighting. You know, when you hear of things like this, it's not easy. But yeah, keep your head up, man. And if shows like this put you in a better mood, you know, keep you positive, then keep coming back through, man. But as I said, I think I can talk on behalf of the chat, you know, and give you a shout out. And as I said, man, just keep fighting and keep positive. But big up for coming through. Terence says, Wenger used to make that mistake in his later years, no experience to bring through youngsters. Yeah, but look, I think there's nothing wrong with the youngsters coming through. But if you look at, as I said, Nwaneri and Dalman, they're two players that are going to be heavily impacted by the signing of Eze. No one can tell me otherwise. These two will get obviously more experience training with better players, etc. But Eze directly impacts Nwaneri. I know obviously Nwaneri's left-footed and Eze's right-footed, but Eze's a 10. You know, Nwaneri's a 10. So if Eze's coming in, Nwaneri is now, if he was second choice to Odegaard, he's now third choice. And let's not forget as well, you know, you got Kai Havertz. I know he's out injured, but Kai Havertz would have been, for me, ahead of Nwaneri in the pecking order at 10 if Gyökeres was to start through the middle. So, yeah. Lumi says Nwaneri will get a lot of games. Is very impactful from the bench. Yeah, listen, I don't doubt that Nwaneri will be getting time off the bench, but for me, how often is that going to be? How often is that going to be? Because if you look at Arsenal's best team, let's say, in Arteta's eyes, Saka, Odegaard, and let's say Eze. If you look at the bench, you've got Martinelli on the bench. You've got, let's say, Trossard on the bench. Madueke on the bench. You've got 3 attackers there that will be ahead of Nwaneri coming off the bench if he plays Saka, Odegaard, and Eze. You know, because if you've got Gyökeres as a striker, you got Trossard who's going to sign a new contract, Martinelli on 180, Madueke, who costs 52 mil. You've got three players there for different reasons that have to be brought onto the pitch ahead of Wanyeri. So you might say he might get a lot of games, but his games will probably come in the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, you know? And if that's the case, then fair enough. Big up to Gamer. Big up, bro. Big up to Chief ERB, says, Martinelli is Brazilian. I thought blood was Russian. Even that, he's making Arshavin look like prime Ronaldo. Yeah, listen, Martinelli, when he first came through, you know, and it was Unai Emery, really, that got the best out of Martinelli. You know, obviously, Martinelli come as a striker, and then, as we know, Arteta has turned him into a left winger, you know. But yeah, Martinelli, for me, he's Brazilian, but he ain't the type of Brazilian that I'm used to seeing personally, you know. And I think he's very off the cuff, you know, very raw, you know, has pace. But I think long term, you know, Arsenal have invested in Martinelli, but long term for me, he isn't the answer for Arsenal's for Arsenal going forward. He's not, because Arsenal need a massive upgrade for me in that left hand side. And if Arteta's bringing in Eze to be that, even though I don't think Eze's a left winger, you know, and he's not, then fair enough. At least Arteta's trying to rectify something, but I just don't know how he's going to keep all these players happy. I know they've got a lot of games this season, you know, but it's going to be one to watch because there's going to be a lot of players on big money that might find themselves on the bench. And even Madueke, I wonder how much Madueke is on. If anyone knows in the chat how much Madueke is on, because I reckon Madueke going to Arsenal, he will be on at least 100 grand a week, definitely. So, and he's not definitely starting Madueke, because I tell you this now, if Madueke's starting, let's say he starts at left wing, between you're gonna have Eze or Odegaard or Martinelli or Trossard on the bench. So again, people will say it's a good bench, but a lot of money on the bench, and how you gonna keep all these players happy? So yeah, Gabriel Jesus can play on the left hand side. He can, but are you gonna play again? He's another problem. I forgot. And Gabriel Jesus is your second highest paid player, I think. He might be he's definitely in the top three, I think. With yeah, I think he might be top three highest paid players. So he's another problem, Gabriel Jesus, when he gets fit, because let's say Gyökeres starts through the middle, you know, and you got Eze on the left, and then you've got Saka on the right. Yeah, you're gonna have Gabriel Jesus, who's on about what? Is he on about 230 a week, something like that? Madueke, 52 million. Martinelli, 180. And obviously you got the Wanyeri's on the bench as well. Who else? Who's the other one? So Gabriel Jesus, Madueke, Martinelli, Trossard. You might have all these players on the bench, and then Wanyeri as well. So yeah, listen, it's gonna be a hard task for Arteta, definitely. But you know, this is why he gets paid the money. Let's see. So Terence says, Lumi, I can't understand why we went for Madueke instead of Khanouss. Well, listen, I've talked about this for time, man. There's no point even going into it, really, because it doesn't make any sense. How much did Khanouss go for? I think it was, what, 55 or 60 mil? And you paid 52 for Madueke. And, yeah. But again, this is the problem. The reason why Arteta went for Madueke instead of Khanouss is because if Khanouss comes to Arsenal, Khanouss directly impacts Saka. Because if Khanouss comes, there's no thing of Khanouss on the bench, because Khanouss is arguably better than Bukayo Saka. But the problem is that Arteta is not going to want to upset Saka or upset, you know, the balance in the team, because there's no way Kudus comes to Arsenal and is on the bench. So this is why he went for Madueke, who someone that's gone from being on the bench at Chelsea. You know, he's not going to really complain as much, you would think. But in Kudus' case, there's no sort of talk about him being on the bench because he is definitely good enough to be a starter, and he would have given Bukayo Saka some real problems, you know. And again, this is how you get your first team squad better, by bringing in starters that come in and replace the players that are already there. So when you're saying why you went for Madueke instead of Kudus, it was pretty obvious why he's done that, because he couldn't have Kudus coming in and upstaging Saka, because then what happens to Saka? So this is the problem, you know what I mean, for me with what Arteta's done there. So Lumi says Madueke, Wanyeri, Kai, Trossard, and Martinelli. So you got that's a lot of money that's looking like on the bench, you know. And as I said, Kai Havertz is your highest paid player. You know, what's he on, 280? Highest paid player. You know, so but again, he's out injured, so that's something you haven't really got to worry about. But I think Eze coming in, you know, although it's a good signing, you know, it's gonna really make Arteta's job even more difficult now. Because can you imagine if he plays Eze in the 10 and Odegaard's on the bench? How's that gonna go down? Because he's your captain. So Lumi says the backup attacking depth is unreal. Well, let's go through the names again, because I don't think it's unreal. Madueke is not good enough. Wanyeri, I like a lot. I think he's a very good player, but he's still young and isn't getting the game time. Kai Havertz obviously is out injured, and Kai Havertz hasn't really put up any trees, let's be honest. Leandro Trossard has dropped off. You know, I know he signed a new contract, but he's dropped off. And Martinelli's poor. So you might say it's unreal. Not for me. Not for me. I think that's fake. That's fake depth for me. Because the only one I rate really out of them is Wanyeri. And he's the most inexperienced out of all of them. So I don't think it's unreal depth. I think it's just a lot of money that's on the bench for one. And it's numbers. But the only one I rate is Wanyeri personally, you know. So I wouldn't say it's unreal depth by any means. Gunners fan says, if Casado is available, which clubs do you think he can go to? Yeah, listen, Marc Casado, I like him at Barcelona. I think, if I'm honest with you, I heard obviously links to Man United, but if I'm honest with you, the kind of clubs he's going to go to, again, this is crucial for his development. You know, him coming from Barcelona, you know, obviously being suited to the way that they play. We're only really looking at the likes in this league, and Man City. I'm trying to think now. Man City. I wouldn't say Liverpool. I wouldn't say Chelsea. You know what? He could fit in at Arsenal, but you're not going to go and do that, having just signed Zubimendi. Newcastle, no. Trying to think what other teams are in this league that play that way. Brighton, you know, Brighton could be a good bet for him, but is he going to go from Barca to Brighton? You know, that's unlikely. But I'm looking at footballing teams, you know, and the footballing teams he's going to go to, as I said, are either Man City or Brighton. And I don't see Man City going for him unless they're looking at him as a, you know, a different type, but a Rodri replacement in the sense in the future. Who knows? But I heard Man United. Can I see Man United going for him? I can't. Not in this system anyway. You know, I think Man United don't need a player like Casado in this system. Even though I do think he's a good football player, but I don't think in this system. So I can't see it. But he's a very good player. But I think if we're looking at Premiership, the only team I'm looking at in terms of playing a playing style that played away like a Barcelona is probably Man City or Brighton. That's the only two realistically I can think of, you know. Big up to Exedra. Big up, man, for coming through. So Loomis says, Gav, I've never heard you be positive about Arsenal. Yeah, listen. Listen, I'm someone. Look, if there's teams out there that are doing the business and getting players over the line, players that I would like at my club, then listen, I'm someone that can support that. You know what I mean? But the Eze signing is a very good signing for Arsenal. But I'm not sure if it's a good signing for him. As I said, it depends where he plays. If he plays in the 10, which is unlikely, then I think I think he could, be a massive difference maker. But it's gonna come with his problems, because you can't play Eze in the 10 and have Odegaard on the bench. Because how long is Odegaard gonna deal with that for? So there's gonna be issues, man. But I think I think Arsenal will get the best out of Eze in the 10, but I just don't see him playing there. So Madueke is on 50 grand a week. No way. He's not on 50 grand a week. Why would Madueke join Arsenal for 50k a week? That's never gonna happen. He's on 120, Lumi says. Yeah, listen. So let's put it this way, yeah. If Arsenal's best three behind, let's say Gyökeres, let's say if Arteta starts Saka, Odegaard, and Eze as the three behind Gyökeres, you're going to have 120 Madueke on the bench, 180 Martinelli on the bench. Trossard is signing a new contract, so he might be on Martinelli money probably as well. So let's say 180. Gabriel Jesus is on about 230 a week. And then you got Wanyeri signing a new contract. Obviously, he's young. So again, you're going to have, just under £1 million a week on the bench. That's crazy. That is crazy. And that's not to mention as well, obviously, I know Kai Havertz is out injured. He's on 280. So yeah, it's all of a sudden, it's mad. It's mad. But again, that's something for them to think about. So Loomis says, Kudus better than Saka. Come on, Gav. You know you don't mean that. What, you think Saka's better than Kudus, Lumi? He's not. I think. Listen, Saka's a good player, but I think it's important to know that there's levels in football. Don't look at Kudus from last season at West Ham, because West Ham have been struggling for a little while. I think if you look at Kudus in what he offers and what Saka offers, Kudus offers more than Saka. He does. And I don't think. I don't think Saka's a better player than Kudus. He's not. I think Saka's been playing in a more progressive, a more stable team than what Kudus has. But if you put Kudus in this Arsenal team, Kudus takes Arsenal up a level. He does. He's better than Saka. He is. I think you're looking at the fact that because Saka's been playing Champions League football, Arsenal have been doing well, I think you're automatically thinking that he's better than Kudus, but he's not. Kudus is better than Saka. Hands down, he's better than Saka. Big up to Stephen Chapman. Big up for coming through. So Terence says Marmoush should have joined Arsenal. Yeah, that was never going to happen though, was it? Never going to happen. Big up to Ruben. Big up to the Joker says, big up Gav. Eze a great signing for Arsenal. Odegaard has been terrible for about 16 months. So now he has competition, and that can be a good thing. Eze is completely different to Odegaard, and that's good. Yeah, big up to Joker, man. Listen, 100% agree with what you're saying, no doubt. But what I'm trying to say is that if Eze is coming for competition to Odegaard, My issue for Arsenal is that if Eze comes in and plays in the 10, how long is he going to keep Odegaard on the bench for? Because he's your captain. I think if the captain was taken away from Odegaard and you done that, it's not much of a problem. But if he's your captain and then Eze just comes in and plays in the 10, how is Arteta going to justify keeping Odegaard on the bench for, let's say, 5-10 games? He's not going to do that. So, and the problem is, if Eze does play with Odegaard, I don't think you're going to get the best out of Eze playing him as a left winger in that system. If you're playing a 4-3-3 and Eze, or if you're playing wing backs, then Eze will look better. But I think playing Eze as a left winger and you're going to play Odegaard in the 10, I don't know if that gets the best out of Eze personally. So, yeah, again, it's one to think about. So Trossard only makes 100 grand a week. But again, he's going to sign a new contract. So and the thing is, they're going to put him on more money. So he's probably going to be on, if he's only on 100 grand a week now, he might be on 120 as well. Who knows? So yeah, guys, we're going to move on anyway. Big up yourselves. 16 likes, guys. Let's try and hit 20 as a minimum. So yeah, we're going to move on to Julio Enciso. Now, I have to be honest, yeah. This was a signing I didn't see coming. And you know what it is, yeah, as well, yeah. Chelsea just, the amount of attackers Chelsea sign, you know, and Enciso's a very good player. I think he's kind of fallen off since last season, you know. Obviously, Brighton gave him the number 10 shirt, and then I don't know what happened, but he ended up going on loan to Ipswich, obviously, last season. And he was someone, I think Enciso's only, what, 21? I think he might be 21 now. And the fact that Chelsea have, obviously, Blueco, who obviously own Chelsea, you know, he's going to Strasbourg on loan. And then next season he'll be coming back, coming to Chelsea, you know, and 17 million for Julio Enciso. And I think first and foremost that's a masterstroke by Chelsea personally, because I think Chelsea are looking at him as, even if he doesn't work out long term, they can flip him for money because he has got a lot of talent, Enciso. So they're gonna put him on loan, see what he does, and if he does well, bring him back, and then probably flip him for money. So the fact that Enciso's has gone to Chelsea and there was no other clubs that were interested. Again, Chelsea's business, man, is crazy. The way that they do their deals is just is mad. But I do like Enciso. I think he's a very good player. I mean, he scored a great goal against Chelsea a couple of seasons ago, and obviously the one against Man City at the Etihad as well. But I do think he's a very very good player, and I think with someone like him, the loan at Strasbourg might do him good, because I think he's going to tear it up there and then come back to Chelsea, and then now Chelsea will have a decision to make because they've got a lot of attackers as it is, you know, and I think on talent alone he's good enough to play for Chelsea, but I just don't know how they're going to fit in all those players. You know, they want Xavi Simons as well, Garnacho, Gittins is there, Cole Palmer, William Esteval, Pedro Neto, and if Enciso comes in next season, and they're getting Quenda as well. Listen, their attack's going to be stacked. I'm telling you. That's not even mentioning João Pedro and Liam Delap. Like, their attack is going to be stacked, and I think, as I said, he's going to have a tough time trying to get all these players, you know, to buy into what he's doing. Enzo Maresca. But yeah, he's a very good player, man. And the fact that Chelsea have got him, again, I think it's more of a flip in the future if he doesn't come back and pulls up any trees. Really, you know, I think there will still be interest in him. But if he's good enough, you know, they're gonna bring him back into the first team squad. But yeah, he's a very good player, Enciso, and I'm surprised they've got him for that low money. And I'm surprised that there wasn't other teams that were actually looking at him as well. So yeah, moving on. Obviously, Aston Villa looking at Nicolas Jackson. Again, I'm surprised at this one. I can see why Villa would want him. I think didn't Unai Emery have him at Villarreal, and it's quite clear. Obviously, Jackson, he wants to move on. They probably want to move him on as well. But they've just signed Evan and Gessand, obviously a striker from Nice, and obviously they've still got Ollie Watkins as well. So you'd have to believe that with is Ollie Watkins going to be on the move, and if so, where to? Because I think there's not many clubs that can, that can afford Ollie Watkins in terms of what Villa would probably want. And again, there isn't too many options for where Watkins could go to, in my opinion. So, so this Jackson one's a bit weird. It's a bit weird because how much Chelsea want for him as well. I think 60 million is probably fair, but I've heard Chelsea want more than 60 million for Nicolas Jackson. And if that's the case, I just can't see where who's going to come in for him, really, if I'm honest, at that price. But Aston Villa wanted him. I think a lot of that's to do with Unai Emery. But again, where's he going to play? First and foremost, because you've got N'Gessand, who's a new striker, who's behind Ollie Watkins. And then if you bring in Nicolas Jackson, what happens to Watkins? What happens to N'Gessand? I know Nicolas Jackson can play out wide as well, but you got Morgan Rogers there as well. So, yeah, this Jackson one doesn't make sense. You can only think that if they want Nicolas Jackson, is to replace Ollie Watkins. That's the only thing that I can think about because the Jackson one doesn't make sense at the moment, especially when you sign that Evan and Gessand, because why has he been brought in for, how much he cost? About what? Only low money, what, 25, 30 mil? So yeah, that's one to think about. Let's go through some of your comments. So yeah, Xavier says Chelsea's squad is quite bloated. Seems like quantity over quality for me. Yeah, listen, I agree. And obviously, just talking about Nicolas Jackson, they obviously wouldn't mind getting rid of him, just like Nkunku. But I think the problem that Chelsea have is that when you've got the likes of Cole Palmer, who's a definite starter, you've only really got in them attacking positions, if we're ignoring the number 9, you've only got really 2 places for all those players. And if they bring in Xavi Simons, I mean, the Garnacho one makes no sense because if you're bringing in Xavi Simons, you're bringing in Garnacho, you're going to have potentially 3 players that can play from the left battling for one spot. So you're going to have Gittins, Garnacho, and what's his face, and Xavi Simons. Obviously, Xavi Simons can play as a 10 as well, so he'll be back up to Cole Palmer. But then you've got Esteval and Neto on that right-hand side. If he's going to do, 2 for each position, then fair enough. So I think that's the way he's going. Esteval and Neto for the right wing. Cole Palmer and Xavi Simons for the 10. And then Gittins and Garnacho for the left wing. And then you've got João Pedro and Liam Delap for the striking position, which I think is what he's trying to do. But I look at that left-hand side, Gittins and Garnacho, if that happens, I just don't think that's good enough. I think right wing, Neto and Esteval, I think's better than that left-hand side. The 10, yeah, Cole Palmer, Xavi Simons, good players. And then you got the 2 strikers in Pedro and Delap. I think that's decent, to be fair. But, yeah, listen, I just don't know. Quenda's coming in next season as well. So they've got, obviously, Enciso we spoke about. So, yeah, it's one of them things that, who knows, man, what they're looking to do there. But they are stacked, that team. They are stacked, I agree. So Wayne says, apparently Garnacho rejected Bayern Munich. Yeah, I see that. I did see that. I'm surprised Bayern Munich were in for him. They've just got Luis Diaz. So I don't know why they would want Garnacho. I haven't seen Bayern come out with that. But by the reports from what I'm seeing, I see that as well. But yeah, listen, as long as he gets at my club, that's all I care about, because 100% profit, you know, and it will allow United to go and spend more money as well, which I still believe they're going to make some moves in this window. You know, what, a week left, you would say? So yeah, I do believe United go and get some deals done. I'm saying one deal, one deal. I'm not sure if it's going to be two. If there is two, then fair enough. But I think they make at least one more deal for me. You know, big up to Dave Blunt, says Eze is going to Arsenal, his boyhood club. Andrea Berta is doing an excellent job. Yeah, listen, Eze used to be at Arsenal as a youngster. You know, he got released from the academy. So yeah, him going back to Arsenal, you know, he'll look at that obviously as unfinished business. And yeah, listen, Bert has obviously played a key role in convincing Eze, because I personally think Tottenham messed the deal up, because to think that Tottenham only paid were only looking to pay 55 plus 5 mil, and Arsenal have come in for 67.5. I think that's poor on Tottenham, because there was always reports saying that Eze is going to go for 68 mil. So why you would come in off of 55 and plus 5 mil in add-ons makes no sense. But again, they had their reasons for doing that, and ultimately it's backfired on them, because Eze would have been a game changer for them, in my opinion. I was saying, if they go and get Eze and they go and get Savinho, I'd go as far and say, you know, they should be aiming for between top 6 and top 4 with those two signings. But I think now that they've lost Eze to Arsenal, Savinho bid's been rejected, where do they go from here? You know, again, Morgan Rogers for me will be a great player for Tottenham in my opinion, but I don't think Villa let him go, not even for 100 mil. So, but yeah, who knows, man? We have to wait and see on that one. Big up to Chris Amott. Yeah, listen, I don't really rate Gittins in the first place, Lumi Rain. I think Gittins is a good player, but I don't think he's what Chelsea needed. I think he's direct, but I think it kind of shows you what is out there, what was available, because I think that's the reason why they probably went for him. They probably looked at the market and thought there isn't no one that's really gettable that's going to be cheap. So they probably looked at Gittins and thought, you know, he could probably do a job, which is probably why they're looking at Garnacho. But I think if you're going to have a left wing of Garnacho and Gittins, I don't think that fills you with any optimism personally. But they are both direct, and that's probably what Maresca is looking at. So who knows, man? Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, it doesn't really fill me with any confidence if you're a Chelsea fan getting those two, for sure. Ezra says, we should be getting Savio as backup, Gav. People don't realize how good that kid is. Yeah, bro, listen, man. He's a top player, Savinho. He's a very, very good, very, very good player. And as I said, I don't believe Man City want to get rid of him, but he's probably thinking, you know, the amount of competition there is for places in that attacking midfield winger position for Man City. He's probably looking at his game time being limited. And again, the World Cup's coming up, and he's going to be wanting to be on that plane for Brazil. So, as I said, yeah, personally, I think he should stay at City, you know, because if he's at City, you know, if you've got him and, if you've got, you know, Savinho and Oscar Bob for right wing, you've got Cherky and Foden for the 10, or Marmoush as well. And then you've got Marmoush who can play out there. And then you've got Doku there. If they go and get a Rodrigo, but I think that's only going to happen if Savinho goes, you know, that's a very strong midfield, attacking midfield quartet there. So, but again, maybe he's looking at World Cup coming up and wants to get more game time. And if he goes to Tottenham, for me, again, Tottenham are going to be going away from what they do in terms of, you know, inverting on that side. You know, you got left footer on the right side, right foot on the left side. Obviously, Kudus is going to start on that right-hand side. Kulusevski's out injured, but he's a number 10 anyway. And Savinho's obviously left-footed to go on the left wing. So they are going to be going away from what they usually do. but he'd definitely be starting for them, in my opinion. So, but maybe that's what he's seeing. But to be honest with you, it's going to cost a lot of money, 60 to 70 million for Savinho, for sure. Dave Blunt says, do you think United will sign Baleba before the transfer window closes? Yeah, you know what? I'm still remaining optimistic. I'm still 95% certain because I just can't see United ending this transfer window and not getting a midfielder, because if they aren't going to get a central midfielder, the season's done. It's done, because the way this manager is playing this team and the midfield that he has, the balance that he has, just isn't good enough. You know, you don't have a midfield of trying to shoehorn Bruno Fernandes in there, and then you got Ugarte, Casemiro, and then Kobe Manu, as we know, is not a number 6 or a number 8 in this system. So I do believe he goes and gets a midfielder, and it has to be Baleba. Again, if you haven't seen my stream from yesterday, you know, I see some reports that Camavinga could be available, and if Camavinga was available, you go and get him for 69 million. You know, that's my opinion. So yeah, I think yeah, if Man United can go and get Camavinga or Baleba, it has to be done. So just based on that, I'm gonna say 95% certain that Baleba does still sign for me, and hopefully he does, because again, he's gonna be a game changer for Man United. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, man. But there's 10 days, and as long as the transfer window is open, anything can happen. And I think personally, I think once Garnacho happens, I think you might see United, you know, just pay up the money for Baleba, in my opinion. 40 to 50 million for Savinho. And listen, if Tottenham wants to get him for 40 to 50 million, that would be great business. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think City's selling for that amount, in my opinion. I think City are going to drive a hard bargain for Savinho, because you've got to look at his age. You've got to look at his potential as well, as you said. So I think 60 million might be the minimum minimum starting point. I think if you're going to get Savinho for between 40 or 50, that's a bargain. And you think of look at the likes of Anthony Elanga. Elanga's gone for 55 mil to Newcastle. Savinho's better than Anthony Elanga. I know Elanga's probably more proven because he's been in the league for longer. But Savinho potentially is better than Elanga as a footballer. So if he's gone for 55, there's no way City, who probably don't want to sell him as well, are going to accept 40 to 50 million for Savinho. I can't see that. So I reckon 60, 65 mil, 70 mil. I think no more than 70 mil will get Savinho. You know, and maybe it might be 60 mil plus add-ons, or maybe 55 plus realistic add-ons. Who knows? But I don't think 40 to 50 million is going to get him out of City. Definitely if they don't want to sell him as well and look at his age and potential. Camavinga's injury history is concerning, Gav. Injuries in many areas. Yeah, listen, Zejo, I hear that, you know. I do hear that. But, I mean, how many injuries has he had over the last 5 seasons? How many has he had? You know, and what kind of injuries are they? Are they muscular injuries? You know, are they injuries that have kept him out for a long time? Because I'm telling you this now. If this guy has been made available, you know, I think there's some players that you have to disregard the injuries, because, again, who knows? He might come to Man United, let's say, Camavinga, and be injury-free. You just don't know. But for me, he's a game changer. He is. He's one of the best players in the world. And for me, he's what Man United need. You know, he's a club signing, just like Baleba. These are players that can play in any system because of the quality they have. You know, and as I said, if he's available for 69 mil, again, as you said, his wages might be slightly high, Camavinga. But for a player like that, sometimes you have to break the bank for them. You know, if Camavinga was asking for, let's say, I don't know, 250, he's worth 250. You know, as I said, when you've got the likes of Mason Mount on 250, and again, it was under a different regime. I understand that, but this regime still allowed Bruno Fernandes to get a new contract. So why not Camavinga? So this is something to think about. But and as Joker said, Camavinga for that price is a bargain, 100%. I said yesterday, and I'll stick by this. You know, when Camavinga's fit, you're looking at one of the best midfielders in the world. Because I look at right now the best midfielders in the world currently. For me, it's Vitinha, Pedri, and Moises Caicedo. Camavinga's in that conversation when he's fit. I think when obviously as he's injured, you can't really put him there. But when he's fit, he's in that conversation, no doubt. So, and again, this is a guy that made his debut for Rennes when he was 16. No, sorry, he was 15. Bearing in mind, he was 15, making his debut for Rennes. Another Lamine Yamal. You know, there's not many 15-year-olds that make their debut in the league for their clubs. So Camavinga's done that, and obviously now he's 22. So as I said, if he's available, Man United have to be interested. Because remember, United were linked to him before. He went to Real Madrid, and he went to Real Madrid for 30 million. I mean, to get a player like that for 30 million is criminal, you know, and it just shows that the pull that Real Madrid have. So last 2 seasons, he's had ankle, hamstring. So ankle, hamstring, muscle, knee, ankle sprain, knee ligament. I think the one concern one is the knee ligament. That's what I would say. I think ankles and hamstrings, you know, muscle strains. I think these are quite common with footballers anyway. But I think the knee ligament one might be a bit of an issue. But again, it depends how serious that was. You know, is he fit now, Camavinga? Because as I said, he's a player that I rate very highly. You know, I've watched his whole career since he come through at Rennes. And again, this is a guy that was given the number 10 shirt at Rennes. He's not a number 10, but you know, he's someone that he's basically Baleba. I look at him as Baleba, box-to-box midfielder. You know, can play left back as well. But you put him in this Man United team, what a signing he will be. I can guarantee you that. Again, so he's currently injured now. Okay. But again, I'm not going to let that deter me from a player like that, you know. Again, if Man United get Baleba, I'm happy. That isn't the issue. But I think if Camavinga's available, I'll go as far and say I'll take him over Baleba. Because there's a year different between both of them. I know obviously Camavinga's probably more injury prone, you know, but Camavinga's a top player, man. He's a very, very good player. So, but if Man United get either one of them, put it this way, I'm happy. So that's where I am currently with it, you know. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But they need to definitely get one of them, you know. Forest, moving on to Forest. Forest obviously agreeing a deal with Douglas Luiz. And I tell you now, you see Nottingham Forest, they are making a massive push for this top 8. I think they're trying to cement themselves in this top 8. You look at the business they've done, yeah. Well, the thing is, let's go through their team what they've got already. They got a very good goalkeeper in Matt Sells, you know, one of the best keepers last season in the Premier League. And again, wasn't he in the team of the season as well? So again, man, he's a good keeper. Their centre-back pairing of Murillo and Milenkovic, I think Murillo is a very, very good player. And again, he's someone for me that can go and play for any of the top 6 teams. You know, left-footed centre-back, competitive, very good on the ball. I've actually got him on my FIFA career mode, actually. I've actually got him on there. So, and he's very good. He's my starting defender. You know, he's very good on the ball, and he's very good at intercepting as well. Milenkovic next to him, again, 6 foot plus, you know, aggressive in the air. And he's a leader as well, Serbian international. So that pairing there, as I said, I think that pairing is probably third to Saliba, Gabriel, and to Konate, Van Dijk. I think that pairing is very good. Midfield, for me, they've got Elliot Anderson, who I believe, if he has a good season, I reckon he's on the plane to for England for the World Cup. You know, he for the under-21 European Championships, he was in a team of the tournament, you know, and he was very good, one of England's best players. And I think Elliot Anderson, you know, I think he's someone to watch this season. He's very good. I look at Elliot Anderson, and he reminds me, and I'm not saying he's going to reach the level, but Elliot Anderson reminds me of Steven Gerrard, the way that he plays. You know, box to box, engine. You know, he's got a good pass in him, a good shot. I think he could be. I look at him right now, and he's probably one of the closest players I've seen to Steven Gerrard. You know, number 8 on his back as well. Again, this is a guy that's at Newcastle, and Newcastle let him go because of the midfield they've got already. But I think he's a very good player in midfield. And if you're going to partner Elliot Anderson with Douglas Luiz, and then you got Morgan Gibbs White in the 10, they're gonna prove problems. You know, they're gonna prove massive problems. Hudson Odoi, they signed that Dan Ndoye as well, who scored in his debut, and then you got Chris Wood as a striker. Just signed Arnold Calamuendo. You know, listen from Rennes, they're gonna be a problem. I'm telling you, and they've got James McAtee, Amari Hutchinson. Like they're making a good fist of it, man, for the top 8. And obviously they got Europa League as well. And if they get Douglas Luiz, I think you'd have to say with Douglas Luiz coming in, top 8 will be a minimum target for them, for me. Because they've got a very good team. I think fullbacks, Ola Aina's very good. You know, I think they're trying to get a fullback from Sevilla. I think is it Sevilla or something like I see, Cardona or something like that. To I think he'll be back up to Ola Aina. I think left back, you know, you've got Nico Williams, obviously right-footed left back. They had another left back on loan from Villa. I don't know if he's gone back there now. But listen, their team's looking very good. Very, very good. So I think top 8 might be a minimum thing for them. So and again, I think it's smart what he's done, really, Nuno, in getting I think it's smart what Nuno's done in getting Amari Hutchinson and James McAtee. Because if you think of Hutchinson, McAtee, and Elliot Anderson, all 3 of those players played for England in the under-21 European Championships, where McAtee was the captain. So yeah, he's probably looking at that combination there, the relationships, the fact that they're all English as well. Yeah, listen, it's good moves, man. Good moves from Nuno. And as I said, I expect them to have a top 8 finish from the business they've done. I think before the season started, you know, they're looking at losing Gibbs White. Obviously, he signed a new contract, and he's a massive player for them and will be their captain if he starts, if that Ryan Yates is not playing. You look at the fact they lost Anthony Elanga as well. You know, you would have thought if they lose those 2 players who were crucial to their attack last season, you know, bottom half finish will be decent. I think the fact that they've kept Gibbs White, they've signed Calamuendo, Hutchinson, McAtee, Douglas Luiz coming in, and to go with what they've already got, and Dan Ndoye as well. I think they're going to be all right, man. I think top 8. Yeah, and I think that'd be a good season for them. He just says, I think Nuno might get sacked. Do you know what? I don't think he does, you know. I think the way they've backed him, I think they're showing intent, because it'll be very silly to sack him if after bringing in all these players. But I reckon Nuno will have a target that he's got to reach, because as we know with Marinakis, he's ruthless, you know. I reckon if he's not in the top 8, then maybe. But they're making some good signings to make that a reality. So, yeah, I think he might be all right. I think he might be all right, man. Yeah, guys, come on. 17 likes. Let's try and hit 20 likes as a minimum. So if you're in it and you're enjoying the content and you're enjoying the conversation, just smash that like button, guys. Help the channel to grow. And as always, if you're new in here, make sure you sub to the channel as well. Wayne says, with Florian Wirtz coming, what do you think the future holds for Harvey Elliott? So first and foremost, I think Harvey Elliott is a very good player. I think he's a very good footballer. The problem Harvey Elliott has is that when you're bringing in the likes of Florian Wirtz. You know, when you've got the likes of Mo Salah there, Szoboszlai, you know, who cost 70 mil, he's going to have a tough time getting into this team. He is, you know, and you'd have to think as well that for the betterment of his career, he should be moving on. Because he's good enough to play for Liverpool, but Liverpool, the quality that Liverpool have in their team, and what they've been and what they've caught, what they've cost as well. Him getting regular game time is not going to happen, because you look at where Harvey Elliott plays. You know, number 10 central midfield or on the right. You've got Gravenberch and McAllister, who are 2 starters. You've got Wirtz, who's the British transfer record as well, who's gonna play games ahead of him. On the right, again, he's going to offer a different threat to what Mo Salah does, but Mo Salah is Mo Salah, really. And just based on that as well, you've got Dominic Szoboszlai, who costs 70 mil, who will get preference over him as well. So, yeah, just based on that, Harvey Elliott's going to be a squad player for as long as he's there at Liverpool. And, again, he's good enough to be playing for many teams in the Premier League. You know, I think City, Chelsea, as a footballer, he's good enough, but he's not going to go in there and command a spot. But any other teams, you know, he could find himself, you know, being a regular in other teams. But I think as it stands for Liverpool, he's not going to get many game times. So that's something he's got to think about, because, as we know, football's a short career. And you'd have to think that someone like him needs to be playing games. And the Florian Wirtz signing has pushed him down the pecking order, but it wasn't just Florian Wirtz. You know, it was, as I said, the likes of Szoboszlai, who cost 70 mil. McAllister and Gravenberch are gonna play ahead of him. You know, so yeah, it's gonna be a problem for him. But if he's happy being a squad player, you know, and you know, picking up, you know, his money, you know, the odd trophy as well, then fair enough. But I think for his career, he has to really think, man, what he's going to do, you know. Big up to JKM. United need to turn up next week. Chelsea should be fine. United need to step up with the players they have. Yeah, listen, as I keep saying, man, this manager for me had 5 games until he's under pressure. So although people think that United played well against Arsenal, you know, I don't think they played out of this world. I thought they were better than Arsenal, you know, but was that because Arsenal was shit, or was that because Man United made Arsenal look shit? But the reality is United lost the game, didn't pick up 3 points. That's the reality. So for me, he has to beat Fulham, has to beat Burnley, and then pick up positive results, whether it's 2 draws against Chelsea and City. But the first thing's Fulham, and that's not going to be an easy game away from home. You know, there are some positives. You know, you look at the likes of Cunha, you look at Patrick Dorgu, Ahmad should come into the team, Xerxes coming back, Mason Mount was decent. Sesko, is he going to start? You know, and Mbuemo mentioned, Matthias de Ligt, Lenny Yoro. So you know what? There are positives for sure for Man United. You know, but if it comes to the end of Sunday and United haven't picked up 3 points, I don't want to hear no one tell me about the performance, nothing like that. Because at the end of the day, this manager is not in the business at this moment in time of performances. He needs results, because, of course, I prefer performances over results. You know, I prefer performances. You know, but performances come with the results. But the thing is, with this manager, because of last season, he needs to get results. You know, because the stage that he's at the moment, he can't afford to have decent performances but pick up no points. Whereas if it's a different manager that didn't do what they done last season, you could look at the performances and say, you know what, I like what I'm seeing. But the stage that Amarim's at the moment, he needs results. And as I said, I done a poll the other day. How many points does Amarim need from these next 4 games? You know, for me, he needs 7 or 8 points. For me, I would say 7 points, which means two wins and a draw. And then the Chelsea or Man City game, you know, kind of a free hit. But he has to beat Fulham and Burnley. Now, the fact that he got beat by Arsenal, you know, it means the Fulham game's a must win. Whereas if he would have got a draw against Arsenal, I would have said, you know what? If you draw against Fulham, okay, but go and beat Burnley. But the fact that he lost to Arsenal, you know, he has to now, Ruben Amorim, beat Fulham and Burnley, and then get positive results against City and Chelsea. Because what I will tell you this now, if he beats Fulham and Burnley, but gets beat by City and Chelsea, it's not good enough. Because that will be 3 losses and 2 wins in 5 games. I don't think that's good enough. 6 points. I don't think that's good enough. Because the next 5 games after this are difficult. So, yeah. So I agree. He has to turn up against Fulham. So I think take 1 game at a time and go over to Fulham and beat them. And it's not going to be easy because Fulham at home on that tight pitch is going to be difficult. You know, and the way Marco Silva sets up Fulham at home is very good. And I think he plays a back 3 against United. I think he matches up United in formation. So yeah, one to watch. Big up to Crawley Eagle. Big up, man, for coming on. Says thoughts on Ramsey to Newcastle. You know what, yeah? This might surprise people, but how much did he cost? What, 42 million, I think it might have been? I think that's a bit of a wasted signing. And that's not because Ramsey isn't a good player. But where's Ramsey going to play? Because for Aston Villa, you know, and again, I think it's good money that Villa have got in for him. Because I think Villa can go and invest that money into someone that might fit their system better or who's a better player. But I look at Newcastle signing Ramsey, and I think I don't see that signing because Ramsey plays what? As a midfielder, central midfielder, or on the left. Now, if you think at central midfield, does he get in ahead of Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, or Joe Linton? He doesn't. But in left wing, you've got Anthony Gordon and you've got Harvey Barnes. Obviously, Gordon can play through the middle, but it's like, is he an upgrade on Harvey Barnes out there? I don't know. Is he an upgrade on Anthony Gordon? Probably not, with the way that Gordon plays out there. I don't know. But yeah, it's for me, for that amount of money, I just don't see that signing. Maybe they're looking at playing Gordon through the middle a lot more. And then they're thinking, if we get 2 players for that position. What I would say is that he fits their attack in terms of what Eddie Howe's looking for, in terms of the, you know, the counter-attack, the pace, etc., you know. But for me, I look at the money that was spent on him, and I think they could have got better for that. Not better, but they could have got a different sort of profile for that position, or invested somewhere else in the team. Because for me, if you're going to bring in players to Newcastle, the players have to come in and start. And I think, does he automatically start for Newcastle? He doesn't. So it's more of a squad signing for me. And again, he's going to be in the Champions League, which might have been the driving factor in that. But yeah, it's a bit of an odd signing for me, I'd have to say. But obviously, Eddie Howe knows what he's doing, and he's probably got plans for Ramsey. But yeah, a bit of an odd signing for me. If Chelsea have this much defenders, what does this mean for Ben Chilwell? Well, yeah, they're trying to get rid of Ben Chilwell. But if anyone doesn't know, Ben Chilwell is on 200 grand a week as a left back. He's on 200 grand a week. I'm not sure how long he's got left on his contract, but you don't get rid of someone that's on that amount of money easily. So Chilwell's still there. And whoever sanctioned that deal for Chilwell to get paid 200 grand a week should have been sacked. Because to pay a left back, and a left back like that, 200 grand a week is criminal. It's absolutely criminal. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to get him off. Because, again, if you're Chilwell, you're going to sit tight and just earn that money. And you can't really blame him for doing that, because whoever gave him that money, you know, needs to be questioned or needs to be sacked. But yeah, it's quite obvious that Maresca doesn't rate him. So yeah, they've just got to just sit tight and hopefully that that they actually move him on eventually. But it's not going to be easy, man. He's on more money than Luke Shaw. 200 grand a week for a left back. Crazy business. But that's their problem, innit? You know. So JKM says, Man City don't need Foden in attack with Hojlund, Marmoush, Cherki and Doku and Bon as subs. Who's Bon? I think I mean Bob. Yeah, Bob, sorry. Yeah, listen, as I said, man, If anyone hasn't seen the stream that I done I think about a month ago, it might have been, and I said Phil Foden is in trouble this season, and the reason I'm saying that is because Phil Foden has got the World Cup coming up, and he's by no means a starter for club or country, because Phil Foden's gone from being arguably England's brightest young talent to now being just a good player based off of last season. Because for England, you would have thought he was a definite starter for England, whether it was in the 10, on the right or the left. You can comfortably say now Phil Foden, you know, would be lucky to get into England's squad. That's how much he's dropped off, because last season, obviously, I heard there was issues, but it wasn't a great season from Foden. And his England place is in jeopardy. Because if you look at the England squad right now, for where Foden plays in the 10, on the right or the left, you've got Saka, who's ahead of him. Jude Bellingham, even though Jude Bellingham's not a 10, but he's ahead of him. Cole Palmer is ahead of him. You got Eze is arguably ahead of him. Now you would say as well. Anthony Gordon's a regular in the squad. Marcus Rashford, Morgan Rogers, Gibbs White. You could arguably say all those players there are either ahead of Foden in the England squad, or you know, on the same level in terms of in the pecking order. And that's how much Foden has dropped off. He's gone from being one of the first names, or one of the very few players that would definitely be in the squad. Jared Bowen's another one. Big up to Wayne. You know, these players here, you could argue, are all ahead of Foden for different reasons in the England squad. And if you look at Man City now as well, Foden's out injured. But where's Foden's best place for Man City? Obviously, as we know, Foden's a 10, but can play, you know, on the right, on the left, as a false 9 as well. You know, he's sort of become a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And again, he's a great footballer, Phil Foden, but the problem he's having is that him playing in all these positions hasn't really done well for his career, because it's like, where does he actually figure? Now, if you look at Man City right now, Oscar Bob's a very good player, and Pep rates him highly. So if you've got Oscar Bob on the right-hand side, and let's say Savinho stays, you've got two genuine out-and-out wingers, left-footed, on that side. Which means in the 10, you've now got, obviously, Cherky can play out there as well. But in the 10, you've got Cherky, Foden, Marmoush, who can play in the 10. If they was to play a 3 in midfield, you would, you know, and we're forgetting Bernardo Silva. You know, Bernardo Silva's their captain now. So, again, they've got to find a place for Bernardo Silva. And he's another one that's left-footed. So if Bernardo Silva's there, and let's say Pep plays Bernardo Silva in the 2, which I don't think Silva should be playing the 2. But then you've got Reinders, you've got Rodri when he comes back, Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, Nico O'Reilly, who's a midfielder. You've got all those players that can play central midfield in a 2. If they play a 3, all those players can play in the 3 as well. If they play a 10, Foden's got Marmoush and Cherky to contend with in that 10 position. On the left-hand side, Doku, Foden can play out there, but is he suited to playing out there? Marmoush can play out there as well. So again, Foden's got a very tough time trying to get a spot as a starter for club and country. So yeah, man, he's gonna have a tough time, man. And this season, how is he gonna get game time? You know, how is he gonna force his way into that World Cup squad? Because the only way he does that, for me, again, he might be someone that just goes because of his name. But I think because England have so many players, that might not work this time. You know, and again, we don't know what Thomas Tuchel's thinking is as well. But I think he's going to have a tough time getting onto that plane because of the amount of options that City have. And obviously England. So it's one to watch. Big up to Daniela for coming through as well. So Wayne says, do you think Bowen is better than Foden? As a footballer, no. But in terms of Bowen's impact for both West Ham and for what he does playing for England, you have to say he is. because I think Bowen's made a better impact for England than what Foden has. And again, Bowen for England will play, left-footed as a right winger. So again, he's another player that Foden's got to try and oust from the squad. Big up to Sham. Big up for coming through, Sham. So yeah, he's got a problem. As a footballer, for me, he's better than Bowen. But Bowen's underrated, and you'd have to say, as it stands right now, Bowen is ahead of him in the pecking order for England. He has to be. Crawley says, Foden has had just one below par season. I think it turns around. Look at Giggs. He was written off for one bad season, but ended up being a legend. Yeah, big up Crawley Eagle. The thing is, I'm not writing off Phil Foden. I think Phil Foden's a very good footballer. I've never written off Foden. I think the problem that Foden has is the fact that he's had a below par season last season. He's got a tough task to try and get his way into the City team and to the England team because of how stacked both teams are in terms of numbers and quality. So this is why he's not a shoo-in for both. Because again, people will look at the fact that Foden's come through the youth academy at Man City and, he is Manchester City, people would say. But that's not going to wash if he's not turning up week in, week out, if they've got other players there. So this is where Foden has a problem, because if he wants to go to that World Cup, he's going to have to play regularly for Man City and put in performances, which at the moment he's out injured. And the way that City dismantled Wolves last weekend, you can't just say, look, Foden comes straight back into the team, because he won't. He'll be on the bench and he's going to have to make an impact off the bench to try and get a start in place. This is the problem he has, So, yeah, it's one to watch, man. Gunners fan says, Gav, who is your favourite fullback of all time? If we're saying left back, for me, it's an easy one. Has to be Marcelo. I don't think people know I don't think people realise how good Marcelo was. As a footballer, he was better than some of the top wingers. As a footballer, he was so good, Marcelo, so talented. So as a left back, I'm gonna say Marcelo. As a right back, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go double Brazilian, Dani Alves. I think Dani Alves was ridiculous. Again, Dani Alves. The way that I look at Dani Alves and Marcelo as a pairing, and again, this was Brazil's fullback pairing. Yeah, they're two of the best fullbacks of all time for quality. Both of them played for the two of the biggest teams in the world. And I know Gunners fan just mentioned someone, Philip Lahm. Philip Lahm was ridiculous, but I'm looking at quality. Yeah, Cafu as well is up there, but I'm looking at quality and I'm looking at the type of fullbacks that I like. And Dani Alves for me was ridiculous. His combination with Messi on that right hand side for years for Barcelona, was, for me, is arguably the best partnership of all time. Them two were ridiculous. The telepathic relationship those two had. Marcelo, for me, is one of the most talented fullbacks I've ever seen. As I said, better than some wingers. So, yeah, I'm going to say as a pairing, Marcelo and Dani Alves for me. No doubt. No doubt. Some people might like Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole, for me, was very good. I think Ashley Cole was probably England's all-time best ever left back for me. But when it comes to Marcelo, he can't touch Marcelo for me. Yeah, Roberto Carlos. Again, Roberto Carlos, Cafu. That combination was crazy. But if I'm looking at pure footballers, it has to be Dani Alves and Marcelo for me. But yeah, listen, Cafu and Carlos are just legends of the game for different reasons, You think of Carlos's free kick he scored outside the boot. That will never, ever be recreated, really. And you look at Cafu's longevity, the engine he had, the quality, ex-Roma fullback, top player. But for me, yeah, Dani Alves and Marcelo, man, were different levels, man. Different levels. Felipe Luiz was my favourite manager. Yeah, he's manager at Fluminense, I believe now. He used to be at Atletico Madrid. Yeah, he was decent, but he's not Marcelo. He's not Marcelo for me. Nowhere near Marcelo, in fact, But Philip Lahm was a top defender. Again, Philip Lahm he was that intelligent of a footballer. You know, right back, left back, central midfield. You know, he was a right-footed left back, really. You know, but I prefer seeing left-footed left backs, right-footed right backs. But Philip Lahm definitely for me is up there, no doubt. But yeah, I can't go against Marcelo and Dani Alves, you know, just because of the way they played as well. So yeah. Moving on, guys. Palace looking at, well, I think they've agreed a deal for Bilal El Khanouss. Dennis Irwin. Oh, listen, Dennis Irwin was a top player, man. I remember someone tried telling me that Brandon Williams could be the next Dennis Irwin. I had to block him on Twitter, man, talking nonsense. Brandon Williams and Dennis Irwin in the same conversation. Never. But yeah, moving on. Crystal Palace looking at Bilal El Khanouss, 32 million from Leicester City. Do you know what? Smart signing. Smart signing, man. He's a very good player from Leicester. And if you're losing Eze, again, he's not gonna directly replace Eze in terms of what Eze gave to Palace. But he's got quality. He's got an eye for goal as well. And he will help fill the void. So yeah, 32 million for a player. I think he must be about 20 or 21. He's a very good player. And again, just like Everton, they're looking at Tyler Dibling. And I rate Tyler Dibling highly. When I first saw Tyler Dibling play up against Dallo, I said, this guy can go to the very top. He just has something different. You know, low socks like Jack Grealish as well. But yeah, Dibling's a top player, man. And Southampton are not gonna let go of him easily. So they're looking at nothing less than 45 mil. But I think if Palace was to get Dibling and El Khanouss and lose Eze, I think Palace will be one to watch this season, because the way they play with the wing backs, that will allow Tyler Dibling as well to play as a an inverted 10. You got Ismail Assar there as well, who can play as a left 10. He might take up a different role on the other side. El Khanouss as well as a left 10. So all of a sudden, you know, you're getting in two very good players if that was to happen. If you lose at Eze, or when you lose at Eze, should I say? You know, so yeah. Wayne says Costa Curta was good as well. Yeah, Alessandro Costa Curta, AC Milan, Paolo Maldini, Franco Baresi. Listen, there's loads of players, man. But Costa Curta was a centre-back. So if we're talking about fullbacks, you could put Maldini in there. Obviously, Maldini was a centre-back as well. But yeah, Costa Curta was a centre-back. Nesta, Alessandro Nesta, what's a player? Fabio Cannavaro. Again, man, it's difficult to say. Difficult to say. Obviously, them guys were centre-backs anyway. But yeah, fullbacks has to be... yeah, for me, it has to be Marcelo and Dani Alves. You know, you got Patrice Evra as well. Deserves a mention. But yeah, of all time, has to be those two. Gunners fan says, there you go then. And Luiz with my manager mode, signing always. Yeah, Godan for me. There you go then. Obviously, Uruguayan international. He was basically, and it's no disrespect to him, but he was a poor man's Sergio Ramos. That's the way that I looked at Godan. You know, leader, winner, aggressive, very good in the air. But in terms of Sergio Ramos, Ramos was just a complete defender. Had no weaknesses really. You know, so I looked at Godan as that. So Wayne says the Italian defense back in 2006 was a joke. Yeah, who do they have again? Was it Nesta Cannavaro? Was it Zambrotta? Was Zambrotta at right back? And then left back was it Chiellini? I might be wrong. Was it Chiellini, Nesta, Cannavaro, and Zambrotta? It might have been. And again, man, some solid players. Materazzi wasn't there, was he? Might be Materazzi, actually. He might have been in there somewhere. Obviously, Zidane headbutted him in that was it the semi-final or the final? Can't remember. But yeah, let me know, guys. A couple more news. Obviously, player that I spoke about, you know, when I was talking about Xabi Alonso and how the way that he played with Bayer Leverkusen. Amin Adli going to Bournemouth, and obviously that's a direct replacement for Dango Utara, who's gone to Brentford. Amin Adli is a very good player, left-footed as well. So he will be the player that will, replace Utara in a sense. Big up to Gunners fan. But as I said, yeah, he's a very, very good player, and he's someone that will add quality to their team. And I think Bournemouth will be all right, man. I think, they've got some good footballers in their team. They've got some threats as well. And yeah, I think they're going to be all right. They've got a very, very good manager in Andoni Iraola. If Ten Hag was to get not Ten Hag, Ten Hag, if Amorim was to go, or should I say when he goes, because I don't think he'll be there for the long term. For me, Iraola, Glasner, they should be definitely the two names that should be in the frame to replace him for me. 100%. They should be definitely two of the names to replace him. And then, guys, before we wrap up, big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. We've got 22 likes. Again, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you smash up the like button and make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here as well. I've got something coming out, guys. Maybe coming out today. I'm just waiting for someone to send me over the... So, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, I done a sit-down live podcast, just talking about a few different things, football, and obviously my journey into onto my channel and why I do it. So yeah, I've got that coming up very soon. Hopefully, I've got someone just editing the footage and that as well. So hopefully I get sent that today. So yeah, that'll be coming out. Once I get sent it, then obviously I'll be looking to put that on my channel. So yeah, make sure you guys get a good look at that as well when you get a chance. But yeah, listen, last but not least, Rasmus Hojlund. Napoli looking at Hojlund as cover for Romelu Lukaku, who I think might be out for 3 months. And obviously Napoli looking at him, looking at Hojlund. Again, the fact that Italian teams are looking at Hojlund, it's not really a surprise because Hojlund. The thing with Hojlund, what is he now? What, 21, 22? I think he's 22. And the thing with Hojlund, he will have interest from Italy because he's played in the Italian league already, And again, if you can get Hojlund on a loan deal, it's a player that, why wouldn't you do that, really? But by all accounts, Hojlund doesn't want to leave Man United. I think teams or him might want to do a loan deal with an option to buy. Who knows? But what makes me sick about this player, yeah, is that Rasmus Hojlund is shit. I'm not going to hear anything else but anyone tell me that this guy's a good player because he's not, I've watched football for years, for years. I've seen good players, I've seen bad players, And Rasmus Hojlund just ain't a good player. And it's not about confidence. It's not about anything like that, yeah. When a player doesn't have the fundamentals to their game, yeah, the likelihood of them being good is not high, And I look at Hojlund, and the only thing Hojlund offers, and this is paramount in the Italian league, he offers a change of pace that isn't really there in the Italian league. Because again, that league isn't based on pace, It isn't really based on physicality. It's more of a tactical league, So he would do well in the Italian league because of his physicality. But the amount of people that I'm seeing have the amount of revisionism I'm seeing for Rasmus Hojlund is actually laughable because, as I keep saying, not his fault, yeah. He cost 72 million and had 4 league goals last season. I don't care if he's got. I don't care if he had if he had no service. If he's 22 leading the line for United, all that nonsense is just excuses because I'm pretty sure if it was a different sort of striker, these excuses wouldn't be made. The facts are, he cost 72 million and had 4 league goals last season regardless. The amount of revisionism that I'm seeing for Hojlund is laughable because it's like he doesn't want to leave. You know, he feels he's still got a future. Hojlund hasn't got no future at Man United. He hasn't. He hasn't because he ain't good enough for one. Even if this manager thinks he needs a loan deal, he isn't guaranteed to be here anyway in the future because he needs to be getting results over the line. And the fact of the matter is, Sesko's been signed, someone that I don't really rate that highly, but Sesko's better than Hojlund. He is better than Hojlund, not to mention Joshua Zirkzee there as well, you know, and should be the main striker. So the fact that Hojlund wants to stay and prove his worth, there ain't no worth to be proved. There ain't. That's like, you know, going out with a girl on a date and she's letting you know that she's not really interested, but yet you're on the date on the date as well. But yet you're there saying, look, let me try and prove you wrong. Like there's nothing to prove. Like the decision's been made. You know, so the thing with Hojlund just needs to look at the situation and think, I won in the squad against Arsenal. Sesko's been brought in. Joshua Zirkzee is better than me. I'm not really going to get game time here. That's what needs to happen. But the fact that he's trying to hang in there apparently and thinking if he goes on a loan deal, he can come back if he shows some good form. Listen, it's not going to happen at Man United, and that's okay because Man United shouldn't be a club, you know, where you get chance after chance, you know. And as I said, he cost 72 million, which wasn't his fault. But the reality is he got 4 league goals. And these 4 league goals seem to have been, you know, brushed under the carpet. Not with me, because I wouldn't even have minded if he got 4 league goals and he showed some good performances. He got 4 league goals and his performances were poor. So the fact that he still thinks he has a future at United, there's nothing to think about. Like, you've clearly been told that you're not required. You know, whether Amorim is telling you, you know, you don't want him to go or you want to go on loan deal, whatever it is, the fact that Amorim leaves you at the squad tells you everything. You know, because if Amorim wanted to, he could have included Rasmus in the squad. But again, he's trying to move him on because the obvious thing is he's not really rating him that highly. But the amount of people that are saying that Hojlund deserves to stay at the club, he doesn't want to leave. Listen, he could not want to leave. But the reality is he has to leave because he's not good enough for Manchester United. You know, and the fact that Napoli want him on a loan deal, which is obvious because, you know, he has played in Italy before. If I'm him, I just take it up, you know, and whatever happens, you know what I mean? Because I don't believe he's going to be good enough at Napoli anyway. But the fact that you're hearing some fans and you're hearing the fact that Hojlund doesn't want to go, as I said, man, is laughable. So, yeah, let's hope that things happen within this next week. I'll be very disappointed if it comes to next week and Hojlund is still there at the club. I'll be very disappointed because, you know, Man United just need to let him know, look, there's no chance of you coming back here. We want to move you on. I just want United to say, look, there's no future here. End of story. If he knows there's no future there, there's no talk of him coming back, Rasmus Hojlund, to try and think he can get his place back into the Man United team lineup. Because there's no way Rasmus Hojlund becomes a first-team regular at United. He had his time last season, and when he first came in, you know, he was given chances, and he's not good enough. Simple as. So just move on from this Rasmus Hojlund guy. That's what needs to happen. Wayne says, thoughts on Jonathan David to Juventus? Yeah, to be fair, I'm not a massive fan of Jonathan David, if I'm honest. When he was linked to the Premier League, I thought there's no team that's going to come and get him personally, because although he did score goals in France, I just didn't think he was that great of a player. You know, I'm not saying he's shit. I think he's a decent player, but yeah, I don't really rate him that highly personally, you know. But yeah, listen, Italian league, who knows, man? He might do a job there, but he's not really a player that I rate highly personally, you know. I think he's just a decent player. So yeah, but guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on. Big up to all the newcomers as well. Big up to all the mods each and every time. 22 likes, decent. You know, as I said, whenever we do a stream now, I think 20 likes is a minimum target. You know, so yeah, that's what we're trying to aim for. But yeah, big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. And as I said, I'm just waiting on today to some content that I done, as I say, a couple of weeks ago to come out. So when it does, I'll be posting that. So make sure you guys give that a watch. You know, it's quite interesting. But yeah, as I said, keep an eye on that and let me know what you think in the comments. So possibly going to be back, guys. Again, if anything breaks later tonight, I'll see. But if not, as always, tomorrow morning, 11:30, same time. But yeah, yeah, some big transfer news, as I said. You know, you've got the likes of Eze going to Arsenal, snubbing Tottenham. And I think Tottenham must be kicking themselves. So what do Tottenham do from here? You know, obviously links to Morgan Rogers. But I don't see them getting Morgan Rogers. So unless they got something else up their sleeves, you know, it's going to end in disappointment for Tottenham. So yeah, massive transfer news. You know, Douglas Luiz, I mentioned already, going to Forest. You know, Enciso joining Blue Company, obviously who own Chelsea, going on loan to Strasbourg, and then obviously we'll be at Chelsea next season. Crazy, man, crazy business. But listen, this transfer window now for me is gonna heat up. You know, I think what's today? What, Thursday? I think Friday weekend. I think might be slightly quiet, but I expect beginning of the week on Monday, it's gonna get exciting. I reckon. I think there's a few teams. I look at City. I think City have at least one more signing in them. I still think they've got one more signing in them. I think Liverpool, obviously the Isak talk, you know, I think Liverpool have at least one more signing, maybe two. Chelsea, for me, have, I'm going to say, another two signings as well. Man United, as we know, Baleba needs to be bought. So I think United have at least one more signing, you know, if not two. Newcastle, the same. I think Newcastle have another two signings in them. Villa, you know, maybe another one, possibly. One or two. Tottenham, for me, I think Tottenham got another two in them as well. So I think there's a lot of teams, especially in the top half of the table. They've got another two signings in them, one or two signings in them, for sure. So yeah, it's gonna be one to watch. Big up to Yekta Akyo as well. Benfica nil, Fenerbahce nil last night. Yeah, I think I see a bit of that. I think didn't Florentino Luiz get sent off as well. Yeah, I mean, Fenerbahce will need to win that, really, you'd think. I mean, John Duran's at Fenerbahce. So they'll need to win that. What was that? Champions League, wasn't it? Fenerbahce and Benfica. Yeah, I think it might have been Champions League. But yeah, guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. Big up to all the mods. Make sure you smash the like button on your way out if you haven't done so already. And of course, make sure you sub to the channel as always. And yeah, I'm going to catch you guys either later tonight, or if not tonight, tomorrow at the same time at 11:30. Big up yourselves, guys, and take it.